It's official. The NHL has just changed forever as the official salary cap projections have been released for the next few seasons, and they have massive implications not only for the Montreal Canadiens, but for the league as a whole, as free agents like Mikko Rantanen will be demanding record-breaking contracts, but some teams like Montreal are better positioned than almost anyone to take advantage of this new salary cap. We have to go into exactly what happened, what Elliotte Friedman said, what these projections mean, and a look at some other leagues, and specifically the NBA, who had a very similar jump, and what that means for teams currently positioned in their cap situation. We have a lot of that to get into, but it's not just that today. We got some Habs trade news for the trade deadline, including Yoel Armia, and a little note on a certain player they sent down, and how Montreal could be primed to make a sneaky move coming up. All that coming up in this episode of Habs Digest. But guys, before we get into the video, quick reminder, half of you watching this video, even if you watch all of our videos and you hear me say this every time, just double check that you're subscribed. We're so close to 20,000, which is a huge goal for us. So if you like the daily news, you want to stay up to date, this is the spot to be. Thank you for being here. Let's get right into the video. And I want to start with just a little thing today, a little move the Habs made, as they sent Raphael Harvey-Pinard back down to Laval. Now, Raphael Harvey-Pinard, of course, was substituting in for, I guess, really Michael Pezzetta. More so the fact, Emil Heineman, since he got hit by a car, everything has just gone down the toilet for Montreal after losing 4 straight. But I thought RHP looked really good in his game. He only played about 8 minutes, but he really gave that Emil Heineman level of energy, right? He was in there. He was fighting along the boards. I really like him, but it seems like they just had to loan him back down to Laval. I believe he was called up. I don't know if it was emergency. I'm not really sure what the logistics are because he wasn't waived for this, right? So anyway, whatever that is, but he's sent down. So I was like, okay, what's the next move they're going to make? But Renaud Lavoie said there's no recall expected for now. Emil Heineman's not on the trip to California, so he probably won't be back for a while. I mean, he's not projected to be back till after the Four Nations break. But that got me thinking, right? So what's going on here? And I saw some people online talking about this. Well, are we really going to play Pezzetta again? I mean, if we start doing that, that makes me think maybe we're, I don't want to say giving up, right? That's not what I mean at all. Like, we're not going to go tank for the lottery. But then I thought of something interesting. The AHL All-Star Game is in California, February 2nd and 3rd. Now, Montreal does play this Sunday against Anaheim, which is on February, I believe, the 2nd or the 3rd. What would the day be? I can easily check that. Sunday is the 2nd. Easy enough. So, Montreal plays Anaheim in the 2nd. There'd be no recall available, but Owen Beck and Logan Mailloux are both representing Laval at the All-Star Game. So, the Habs have 2 more games in California against San Jose on Tuesday and I believe LA on Thursday. Either way, it's a game against San Jose and LA next week. I think we could see Logan Mailloux and Owen Beck called up again just to fill in some roster space, right? Fill in that defensive hole left by Cayden Goulet's unfortunate injury. Fill in that forward spot with Owen Beck, who showed that he was okay in his other NHL games. So just a little note on some moves I think the Habs will make. Come back here and let me know if it's right, if you're watching this video in the future, because I got a funny feeling that that's going to happen. It just lines up too perfectly. They send RHP down to Laval. They don't make a move, even though they're kind of like, we've seen Pezzetta's not really playing great, and we're missing a defenseman. So keep an eye out for some sneaky Laval moves. It'd be easy to get Beck and Mailloux over to Montreal. So just wanted to mention that. But let's get into some other stuff. And I wanted to talk about some trade deadline news. And again, if you want to skip ahead to the salary cap stuff, there will be a timestamp. Feel free to jump to that. But I want to talk about Yoel Armia really quick. And there's a lot of destinations that he could be going to. But in an article from A Winning Habit that I've linked down below if you want to go read it, they list a few other teams as well. They list some destinations for Yoel Armia. And the one I took particular interest in is the Columbus Blue Jackets. Because, look, if Montreal does stay in the mix, which they are still firmly in the mix, despite this bad losing skid, they can bounce back, right? Like, it's not all over right now. But again, if Montreal does decide, Kent Hughes and co decide that come March, it's time to move a guy at the deadline, Yoel Armia is one of those guys, right? Montreal does have a retention spot, and if they don't want to use it on a guy like Savard or maybe Dvorak, probably not him, Armia is a good candidate for that. And when you're looking at teams that could fit Armia, Columbus actually makes sense. Their top 6 has been playing surprisingly well, especially that Monahan line with, I think it's Voronkov and I forget who the other winger is. I can actually check it right now. Or so I guess they've changed it up. It's because Monahan's out right now, but it was Monahan with Marchenko and Voronkov. That's what it was. But yeah, I mean, they have plenty of salary cap space. That's the thing with Columbus, and it opens the door for players like Armia or Jake Evans who could play in the bottom 6 and help the PK. Armia would be a veteran voice in the room for some of the young players. Wouldn't guarantee Armia a playoff spot, but he could help them immensely. I mean, Columbus has actually been playing very well. They are, I believe, as of the recording of this video, in a wild card spot, or if not, they're extremely close to one. And you can look at their team, like their bottom 6 is not that deep. For how good that they have been playing, their bottom six forwards are not amazing. And look at those contracts. They don't have a ton of money tied up across the board. They have a bunch of guys outplaying their contracts. Fantilli is finally settling into the NHL. Voronkov and Marchenko have been, you could argue, the two most valuable contracts in the league so far, especially with how well they've been playing alongside Monahan when he's been there. And again, Monahan's at $5 million. You can slot him into this lineup, but sliding a guy like Joel Armia, even into that third line to replace a guy like Matthew Olivier, could pay huge dividends for this team, as Armia is one of the better penalty-killing forwards and puck possession forwards in the league for what he does, right, in a third, fourth line role. I actually think this maybe makes the most sense of any team I've heard about for a Joel Armia trade, excuse me. And not to mention, he's could go back with Sean Monahan. So, I don't know. This is something I just thought was interesting. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on all the teams Armia could go to, but Columbus definitely caught my eye. But now it's time to get into what you've all been waiting for, because the NHL, oh my gosh, everything's about to change. So, I got a lot of pictures I got to show you guys. And the first one, let's hope I bring this up in the right order. Let's see if I do this. So, here it is. Elliot Friedman. The NHL and NHLPA have released cap estimates for the next 3 seasons. $95.5 million in 25-26. That is insane, because I believe it's, $88 million this year? That's a jump by $7.5 million. $104 million in 26-27, $113.5 in 27-28. Now, these might just look like numbers, might not mean a lot to you. Let's put it into perspective. From JFresh, I'll make this bigger. The NHL salary cap projections up to $113.5 by 27-28 means we're in for a major change in contract values. $10 million today is 11.3% of the cap. In a few years, in 27-28, that same percentage of the cap will be about $13 million. So what this essentially means is that players bargaining for contracts now might say, I don't want 11.3 of the cap today. I want 11.3 of the cap by the time my contract is in the middle of it. By the time I'm in the middle of this contract, right? So for example, a guy like Rantanen, he could easily ask for 15 plus now, and it might not even hurt as much, right? So there's a lot of stuff here, but I want to dive into, I'll get into the implications on Montreal in just a second, because I do want to say Montreal is arguably the best position team, or at least one of them in the league right now, and I'll explain why. But I want to talk about the NBA. And I follow the NBA, right? And if you guys don't, that's okay. There's nothing you really need to understand about basketball. All you need to do is look at the difference between 2016 and 2017, and then the following seasons after that and how the cap went up. Again, COVID messed some stuff up, but look at that jump between 2015 to 16 was big. 16 to 17 was absolutely massive. Now, that was much more than we're seeing in the NHL. That was a $24.1 million increase. However, that is, it's still significant. NBA roster sizes are smaller as well, but that was massive. And what happened there, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with maybe this is not meant to be a basketball video, but anyway, the Golden State Warriors, they were a great team. They locked up a lot of their best players on max contracts just before the cap exploded. And what happened? They had not only some of the best players in the world on cheap contracts once the cap went up, they also had the room to sign big free agents. And that's where I'm thinking Montreal is going at. Look at this. We have never seen the cap do this ever. Look at how steep this curve is going to be from this year until 26, 27, and even 27, 28 versus the entire history of the NHL. It's going to go up more in these next few years than it did in the last 10 years combined. And when we're talking about the implications on teams, Montreal is arguably the team in the best position right now, because Montreal has a lot of their best players, a lot of all-star level talent, first-line talent like Nick Suzuki, like Cole Caufield, and eventually Juraj Slafkovsky in the future, all locked up under $8 million. Not only does that already look like a bargain today, in 1 or even 2 years, these contracts, you're going to see people who are getting paid quite literally double Suzuki and Caufield for not that much more production, right? That's where I'm getting at right now. So not only does Montreal have these contracts that are going to be bargains, that will open so much for the future. Having these kind of guys who are producing so much on your team not only is an amazing value, but it opens up your opportunities to bring in more free agents. Again, Montreal has never been a massive free agent destination. There's Canadian taxes, there's Quebec winters, whatever. But again, with the culture they're breeding, with the young players they have, with Demidov coming over, Lane Hudson getting better and better, if we can ink Hudson to an extension this offseason that isn't crazy expensive for a long term, I mean, that's a big if, that could set up Montreal to be the best position. Cayden Goulet's $5.5 million, again, assuming he recovers well from his quadricep injury. Really hope he does. We still don't really know. Hoping and praying that he does. But $5.5 million for Kaiden Guhle is going to look like one of the best defenseman contracts in the league if he comes back healthy, right? You have Demidov coming over. You'll have all the space in the world to sign him. And these bad contracts that Montreal has right now, they're coming, like, for example, Gallagher and Josh Anderson, those two contracts are coming off the books right there after 26, or it's 2 more years after this one, yes, right? I think, so after 26-27, when we're seeing that nearly $10 million jump from 104 to 113.5, Montreal's bad contracts are coming off the books right as Montreal is entering their contention window, right as the salary cap is going up, all the while, Montreal still has Suzuki, Caufield, Slav, hopefully, Hudson, Demidov, maybe, and I don't even know if you can extend him by that, and Slafkovsky and Guhle and whatever, all these players already locked up long-term through this massive spike in cap. Montreal is going to be in arguably the best cap situation in the league. This is literally perfect, right? This is exactly what we wanted to see with the cap shooting up. This is unprecedented, and I don't think there are many teams in the league, if any, that are in a better position right now than Montreal. So let me know your thoughts down below. I cannot contain my excitement with this news today. All I'm waiting for now is to see what Lane Hutson signs for this offseason, see the official confirmation that Demidov's coming over, see that Guhle is healthy. We got even goalies coming up from the future, Dobesh and Fowler. We'll have all the space in the world. Now, you don't want to splurge on it too much because that was a big problem the NBA did. As soon as we saw this cap go up like that, you know what happened? Scrubbed bench players started getting massive $20 million a year deals, and then that ended up messing up a lot of teams. But still, let me know your thoughts down below. I'm excited. That'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. I can't believe what's happening right now. Montreal is they're better positioned than ever. I'm your host, Josh Gosse, and I'll catch you in the next one.